Let's say you plan to do a certain project or task in your calendar, and then when the time comes, you tend to brush it off or you tend to feel some anxiety over that task. Well, it happens to me as well. And when that happens, if I don't have clear steps, it's so easy for me just to um, attend to my email, surf social media, comment on other people's posts rather than attend to my own important project. And maybe you have experienced that as well. So I'm going to introduce a tool to you that has helped me to solve this issue of anxiety and um, lack of clarity and just kind of slowness in business. Because, well, if you haven't noticed, being a business owner, having your own, freelance business or service providing business means that you are your own boss. No one, you don't have the benefit of a boss or a manager handing you to say, this is exactly what I want you to do. Step one, two, three, four, five. And, and if you did, that's probably why you may have felt um, like you wanted to work for yourself so you can determine those steps for yourself and have more autonomy, right? And so this is what a hat manual is. Okay, well, why do I call it a hat manual? You wear multiple hats in your business. Sometimes you wear the hat of a content creator, a blog writer, or a video maker. Sometimes you wear the hat of a course creator. Perhaps you're creating a course for your students or your clients. Sometimes you wear the hat of a coach, where you are preparing for a client session or following up with a client session. What are your steps for that? So anytime there is a repetitive task, something that you do again and again and again and again, several times a week, or several times a month, or even several times a year. I think those tasks deserve what I call a hat manual, as long as it's not so simple and obvious to you that it's only two steps and you know exactly what they are every time, then you don't need a hat manual. And by the way, the word manual might make it sound like it's a large giant book. No, it's simply a checklist or a workflow process, or sometimes people call it standard operating procedures for any particular hat you wear in your business. Bookkeeping. If you do your own bookkeeping, you're putting on a bookkeeper hat. Do you have clear steps to do for that? Or every time you come back to your bookkeeping or even your article writing or course creation or client follow-up or outreach or whatever, you have to go, well, what do I have to do again? Right? Anytime, by the way, you find yourself saying, oh, let me remember to do this the next time, that is a prime opportunity to create or add to your hat manual. And so I have been, like I said, I've been doing this process for, well, I don't know if I said it yet, but for more than 15 years using hat manuals. And as a result, my business is so much more calm and clear than many of those other business owners that I talk to who are often frantic and saying, oh God, I forgot to do this, or gosh, how do, feeling anxious about any particular project, even though they've done the project before. And or like I said, a calendar, you look at your calendar and it says write blog post, or it says create course, or it says do some outreach, and you're like brush it off because you don't have clarity of what to do, and the steps are written out so that it's doable enough. If a particular step is too big, you would write out more doable steps underneath that, because I always like to say you can do anything you set your mind to, as long as you do it step by step. As long as the steps are doable, you can accomplish anything. Of course, it takes time and it takes effort, but if the steps are really doable and clear to you, well, then it's much easier to get going and to take the next first step, very doable. Okay, goes on to the second step, very doable as well. Goes on to the third step, very doable as well. But if you put all three steps into one step, you might feel some anxiety and some procrastination might come on, right? Okay, so um, what are the steps So hopefully by this point you are persuaded that maybe you should try creating hat manuals. I have every time I've taught this to clients and my students, and they actually start using them, they feel so grateful that I shared this with them and that they started doing it. So, how do you start with by creating hat manuals? Well, it's as simple as opening a document. By the way, hat manuals can be either digital or physical. If you prefer to do your own journaling, if you prefer to write it on a post-it note, if you prefer to use a whiteboard in your office. I don't have a whiteboard. I tend to do things digitally because then it's easier for me to find them. I always have it on my computer. I will show you in a few moments some examples of my hat manuals. But the key is to use whatever tool you are comfortable and enjoy using, hopefully. It could be a document, it could be some kind of a checklist software, it can be a to-do list software where each hat manual is its own project or template. It can be a spreadsheet. I keep it simple and I use a Google document, but open up that tool that's easy for you and enjoyable for you to use, and then just begin. Put the title of whatever process you want to be super clear whenever you're doing that process. Let's say you are creating a course, okay, and you start a hat manual called course creation. Okay, good. Then what you're staring at a blank page, all you got to do is just write down step one or write down the number one, one period. And then what is the first step? Okay, now the other thing is that your hat manual keeps evolving over time. So don't feel like you have to, perfectionism is one of the issues that we all, solopreneurs deal with, right? A lot of us. So just know that your hat manual at first starts kind of messy, and then it gets more cleaned up, streamlined, or expanded over time as you use it, right? So right now, just add step one and write, if I'm creating a course, step one might be to create a Google Drive folder for this new course. Step one. See, a step has to be so simple that when I look at it, I'm like, oh, I can do that. I can do that. That's easy. And it's not only easy, but it's like, oh, that's kind of fun. I can create a folder. I try to have fun also when that's part of joyful productivity is try to bring lightness and joy into whatever task we're doing. And when a step is doable, it's much more easy to bring joy to it. Oh, I can do that. It's like, oh, I can create a folder. Step one. Step two could be create document within folder and name it as notes colon and then whatever the course working course title is. Right? That's my step two, right? It can be as simple as that. And step two, I could do step two. And step three might be on that document or set 15-minute timer and then brainstorm three things I want to make sure to teach inside this course. Three things that I want to make sure students have some practice doing by the end of the course, right? Like that's might be the third step. Oh, set 15-minute timer. Maybe third step is set 15-minute timer. Fourth step is brainstorm three messy things in those 15 minutes, right? Oh, I can do that, 15 minutes. And one other thing I always like to say is, you are a genius. You just need a timer. You are a genius. You just need a timer. Really. And I have done this again and again with my students and clients. In a course, when I'm teaching them a process, I will often put up a timer on the screen. I'll say, all right, let's take a couple minutes now and do it. And especially when the timer is up on the screen, and I say, all right, go ahead and brainstorm this, or go ahead and write that, or go ahead and reflect on this, go ahead and chat below. I'm always so delighted to see how my students are geniuses. You are a genius. You just need a timer because then you realize, oh, now it's game on and your body, mind, soul system organizes itself to do the task within this temporary constraint you have set for yourself. And I always think about how this life is like a timer that is aiming to help us express our genius before we expire, before the timer expires. right? This life has a timer. Each day, the sun rises, the sun sets, has a timer. And therefore, it's really wise, I think, to work with your own timers as well so that you can activate the genius within you that um, forgets sometimes that there is a timer. Because I think our genius, if I can take another 20 seconds of a side journey here, 30 seconds, our genius is connected to our soul, and our soul is connected to eternity and still has that memory of eternity. And so we often forget that we don't have unlimited time here in this timed experience called the Earth game, the Earth life. So when you're creating a hat manual, also, you may want to set a timer for 15 minutes to say, all right, I'm gonna try this thing that George is talking about. I'm gonna try just creating a hat manual for this process so that next time I come back to it, it feels calming, it feels very doable, it's very clear. I make sure I do all the steps that I want to do and I don't forget anything. All right. So that's the simple. So you create a hat manual by just first making it up. In a 15-minute time, you write it down using whatever tool you like to use. And then next time you do that task or project, you go and open up that hat manual and follow the steps. Follow the steps, and you might notice at that point, oh wait, I forgot something between steps 3 and 4. I don't want to forget that. Let me go ahead and write it down. So if you say to yourself, I don't want to forget that next time, I want to make sure I do it, write it down so that next time it's there. Now, at this point, I'm going to go ahead and show you a couple of examples of my hat manual. So here I go. I'm going to share the screen now. All right. Here it is. Okay. Hopefully you can see my screen. And the first thing I want to show you is that I have a pinned tab that's always on my browser because most of the day I work with my browser. And that pin tab, I have my calendar, Google Calendar, I have my to-do list, today's items, and then I have my hat manuals always pinned there because I go to this so often. And I got my list of hat manuals listed here. I still have, so you could see this is how I organize my hat manuals. I have separate documents, separate hat manuals for various things. And actually, some of my hat manuals need to be cleaned up. I don't open those often enough, so I have to clean some of them up. But the ones I open most often are, I have an old hat manual document that contains a lot of things that I still have to add. So you can see, because I'm such an old hat at this process, I have some streamlining to do. But anyway, the process works well for me right now, and I just kind of very, very gradually streamline over time. And that's something I want to recommend to you as well, is don't feel like you have to keep your hat manuals perfect. The key is to make it usable, to make it something that like you actually is useful to you rather than, oh, I got some kind of a perfect project. I got it. No, it's not a perfect, it's something that's really usable. Okay. So this is my old hat manual organization process, was having this really, really long document for various processes that I have, including a book launch, etc. Right. And my new process is creating separate documents so that it's more clean in a single document. Um, because with a Google Drive, you can search up here. I could search hat, hat, whatever, and then type in whatever process I want, and it'll pull it up. But in the old method of doing it, I would just do a Command F, and I would just say, book launch or whatever, and then it would be there. Okay. So let me go and just show you real quick. you know, uh, when I upload videos on Fridays for my clients, right? I have these links, and that's one of the things that hat manuals are great for when it's in a digital format, is you can use links so that it opens up the things. I'm not going to open them up right now, but it opens up where I need to go to find my videos. This upload link goes to my course platform where I upload the videos that are on my desktop, and then I pull up a folder on my course platform called current videos, blah blah, and I pull up my Q&A course so I can add videos to it, etc. So these are all links that makes it easy for me to do the process without having to think, oh yeah, where is that place again in my course? You know, And then let me show you my current course creation hat manual. Actually, this is the new one here, course launch. And these days, I'm using AI. By the way, that's something you might consider doing. I'm using AI to help me create and refine my hat manuals. I kind of work with Google Gemini and their Canvas document creation process. Anyway, if you're interested in how I do that, deep dive into it, consider joining my AI course, and you can ask me about that, and I can show you anything I like. But essentially, my course launch process is now very, very involved, much more involved than probably your course launch process, because I've been launching courses now for 15, 16 years, and I have really made the process much more refined and more complex over time to accommodate all the things I want to do when I launch a course, right? And so I've got the various weeks written out, and each week I have 3 hours to do a course launch process, part of my course launch process, because that's such a big part of my business. And so it's like week one, Monday, in my Monday hour, this is what I do. I brainstorm possible course topics. I have some notes for myself and links for myself for brainstorming, and even some client requests. And then I pull my affiliates, and I have examples of how I pulled my affiliates so that I don't have to reinvent the wheel, right? And that's one of the great things about hat manuals is you can give yourself examples so that next time you do it, you can go and just use those examples. And I have links to my examples. Okay. Tuesday, I don't do anything. It's my teaching day. Wednesday is another hour that I use, and this is what I do on Wednesdays, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So anyway, not to overwhelm you, because again, that hat manual you just saw is kind of like a PhD level. It's been very, very refined over many years. But you might start as simple as, like I said, step one, create a folder. Step two, create a document. Step three, brainstorm three ideas. Step four, brainstorm another three ideas or whatever it may be. So I really look forward to hearing um, whether this lands with you, whether this sounds useful to you. Remember, the key is to bring calmness and clarity to the various things you do in your business. Oftentimes, these are recurring things that you do. And so that every time you have to do that thing, got a hat manual, pull it up and make adjustments as needed. And it's not about perfection, it's about usability. Now, one thing I wish my hat manuals were was more pretty, but it's usable for me. But feel free to make your hat manuals prettier, better to look at. Use colors, use images, use so that you're more delighted to look at it. Okay. So, oh, mind map. That's another way of thinking, a tool that you might want to use for hat manuals, using a mind map. Okay. So mind mapping, if that's something you enjoy. Well, I look forward to seeing if this is something you want to do. I really encourage you today to create your first hat manual if you don't have one yet, for a process that you do frequently that you're like, oh, wouldn't it be great to be much clearer every time I do it? Okay, start creating it. Okay, and let me know how it goes. I look forward to seeing your comments below. Thanks.